Well, there's no doubt about it, winter is upon us here in rural Michigan. The back roads are a little slippery, so it takes a bit longer to get places. Ortonville is a pretty typical Midwestern small town. We even have a traffic light, although it only blinks red. My friend Brenda owns a small gift shop. I took a drive over to see her. She contacted me recently to ask me if I would help her out with some window displays for her store. The name of her store is For the Love of Local because she features local Michigan artists. Brenda wanted me to build her a backlit village scene that would span across all three of her front windows. She found some really good examples of what she had in mind on Pinterest. I took all the critical measurements, but I also had to consider how I was going to install these. Since I would be building several of these, I thought it would be prudent to build some sort of a mock-up, maybe out of corrugated cardboard and hot glue. Oh, did I mention? Brenda requested that this window display light up. I decided to go with these inexpensive LEDs. They're super convenient because they can be powered by USB. That means a phone charger block or a battery pack would work great. I noticed they were spec'd at 6 volts, which means 4 AA batteries would work too. I did a little experimenting and I noticed that the lighting effect on a nearby surface changed dramatically by distance and the angle of the strip. This was a big help in determining the location of the light strips. In fact, this is how I came up with some of my primary dimensions. To get the light and shadow effect I was looking for, I determined that the space needed to be narrower in the front and wider in the back. I also raised and tilted the rear LED strip to shine higher and more evenly on the rear panel. I figured out a lot by building this mock-up, and Brenda liked it as soon as she saw it. Well, it was time to pick up the pace and start working on the final artwork. I created most of the art from scratch, but I also found a few pieces of vector art online. I wanted to point out here that I used the grid feature in Adobe Illustrator to be sure that my 1/8 inch and 16th inch bits were going to cut the proper details. I will make these drawings and plans available on my website, so check the link below in the description. I imported the 2D vector art into Rhino so I could produce a 3D model and some dimensional drawings for the parts that I'm going to cut on the table saw. I decided on 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch plywood for the structures. I set up the tool paths for the CNC router so that I could use an 1/8 inch bit for roughing and a 16th inch bit for finish. I programmed in some strategically placed holes so I could screw the plywood down to my spoil board. I always check my simulations very closely. It's amazing how many problems I can find before they happen on the real part. All the materials for this project can be purchased from Amazon.com, including this Baltic birch plywood, which actually shipped directly from Woodcraft. The links will be down in the description. I ordered my plywood as 24 by 30 inches, so I only had to make one cut right down the middle. Time to fire up the robot. When the first panel finished, I was really impressed with the amount of detail. Then I realized I have to sand this somehow, and there's a lot of little edges. So as I was sanding the surfaces, the front and the back, it occurred to me, maybe I could use a brass brush. And it actually worked. It took a little bit of scrubbing, but it actually took off all the fuzzy edges. I was so happy. Altogether, I cut, sanded, and sealed a dozen of these panels. With the router work all done, I moved on to the table saw. I cut my 1/4-inch plywood into strips that would serve as the bottom and the sides. To ensure that the dados lined up, I cut them first, and then I cross-cut the end caps. The holes are big enough for the USB connectors. I cut these on a 45 for mounting the rear LED strip. I used screws on these, but glue would have worked. If you ever need to mask straight lines, here's a great way to do it. We were going for a matte white surface finish, so this primer is all I needed. By the way, the reason for masking was to keep the paint out of the glue joints. This wood was really lightweight, so rubber bands sufficed as clamps. Alright, well, the glue's dry, the paint's dry, Santa's installed up on top here. All I gotta do now is get the electrical installed in it, which I'm gonna do in just a second here, and then once that's done, I'm gonna head over to the store and we're gonna put them in the window and see how they look. I did have to customize the wiring a little bit. These LEDs came in 2-meter lengths, also known as 78 inches. This divides evenly into 3 pieces of 26 inches, perfect for what I needed. Even though these strips were self-adhesive, I still added a dab of hot glue off camera, just to be sure they stayed put. Look what I found, USB power switches. Time to install the finished pieces. The mounting system ended up being pretty simple. It involved only one number 6 screw in each end. Well, Brenda was really pleased with the way those turned out, and I think they really look nice in her shop. And I'm going to put links to her website and her Facebook page down below, so be sure to check those out. This is the one that I'm keeping for our own family here at our house, and we're going to display this in our living room. Okay, here's the magic. Ready? You guys ready for this? Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, I really like the way that this thing came out. If you'd like to build one for yourself, please check out my website for the files. Also, down below, I'm going to have a list of materials so you'll know where to get those. And don't forget, you can cut this out on a scroll saw or a laser cutter as well. I did mine on a CNC router, but that doesn't mean that you have to do it that way. So Again, if you haven't subscribed, getting around Santa here, please subscribe, hit the like button for me, and don't forget to hit the little bell button, because that way you'll be notified when my next videos come out. And check out some of my old videos if you'd like to as well. So I'd really appreciate that. As always, take care and happy holidays. Multi-dimensional